Hey friends, it is Jenna, what is up, and welcome back to the Board Game Garden, and welcome to a Kickstarter preview of this game right here. This is Stonespine Architects. It is published by Thunderworks Games, who is helping sponsor today's video, so huge thank you to them. And it is also designed by Jordy Adan, which if Jordy Adan sounds familiar to you, he's actually the designer of Cartographers, which is behind this little plushie right here, which we will get to. We will definitely get to this eventually. So yes, Jordy Adan designed Cartographers, which if you guys do not know, I am a huge fan of Cartographers. It is one of my favorite roll/flip and writes, and it's been in my collection for a very long time, but this is the next one that Jordy Adan has been working on. It is called Stonespine Architects. It is for ages 10+. It plays 1 to 5 players, and it plays in about 45 to 60 minutes, which is actually very accurate. When I played with my friends Aiden and Tyler, it was a 3-player game, and it took us about an hour. So that was also with a teach and a little bit of like a slow play of it, so I feel like that is a really good judgment of how long this game plays, which I find that it's not very often that you actually have a pretty accurate time on the box. But anyways, if you guys want to see more about Stonespine Architects, then just keep on watching. I will have the link down below to the Kickstarter if this is something that you guys feel you would be interested in. And also I will be talking about some additional things that they're going to have during the Kickstarter campaign. And yeah, give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy. Also hit that subscribe button down below if you have yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. Comment down below as well if this is a game that you think you would enjoy. And yeah, let's get into a little bit of how the game plays and all those things now. All right, so like I mentioned, this game is coming to Kickstarter. I will have the date here. I believe I will be uploading this video on the day that the Kickstarter campaign goes live, so definitely go and check it out. It'll be live right now, but there is also a few additional things that they will have available during the Kickstarter campaign. Obviously, you'll be able to get the base game, but they will also have this guy right here. This is a Minotaur plushie, which is, oh my goodness. I love this. I love this boy so much. My dogs also love this boy. But yes, this is going to be available during the Kickstarter campaign. It's not going to be available after. It is just a fun little thing that they're adding to the campaign, which I think is adorable. It is probably around the size of like one of the general like Build-A-Bear plushies. It is a very nice huggable plushie, and he's very cute. So that is an additional thing that they're going to have available. They're also going to have a few different editions, a few different like promos and stuff. I will add that during the campaign, there's going to be a mini expansion for Stonespine Architects, and it's called the Shrines and Fountains mini expansion. So that will be available. And then there will also be some Cartographers promos. So these are just 4 cards that you can put into your game of Cartographers. There is a hero, which is the Hortgully, and then we also have the Slime monster. We have the Stonespine Mountains card here, and then we also have, I don't know how to pronounce this, Jael, Jail's Advice, but that is a like objective card. So those are some Cartographers promos. There's the mini expansion, there is the Minotaur, and yeah, I guess that is everything for just some general info about the Kickstarter campaign. Like I mentioned, I will have the link down below to the Kickstarter campaign if you guys want to go and check out the actual campaign and everything on that page. But let's get into a little bit of an overview of the components, as well as how Stonespine Architects plays, so you guys can get a better feel if this is a game that you think you would enjoy and want in your collection. I will also have B-roll over all of me talking so you guys can see the components a little bit better. But let's get into the components and how the game plays. So quickly before we get into all of the components in front of me, I did want to give like a quick little like how the game plays so you guys know generally what I'm talking about when I'm pointing to all of these components. But basically in Stonespine Architects, you are architects building up these dangerous dungeons of cards. This is a closed drafting game, so similar to things like Sushi Go, as well as Seven Wonders, It's a Wonderful World, which I love closed drafting games. But yes, there's some closed drafting, so you're going to be drafting some cards, building up this 4x4 tableau of cards to create your dungeon. So over 4 years, you're going to have 4 years of building and digging this dungeon below the ground. Players will continuously, simultaneously close draft cards, pick one, place it in front of them, pass it to either the left or the right, depending on the year that you're in. And then once everyone has placed 4 cards for that year, you'll go into a market phase where you'll be able to use coins in order to purchase additional things to add into your dungeon. There are going to be some objectives that you're going to be able to draft once you are finished with the market phase. The sooner you are finished the market phase, the earlier that you can choose from the objectives that are face up. And then you'll continue doing that. You'll go back into the drafting phase, place your next 4 dungeon cards in your dungeon, do the market phase. There's a little bit of a cleanup phase as well. And then after the 4 years, you will do final scoring, where players are going to get points for a bunch of different things. So that's kind of a little bit of an overview of the game. But yes, 4 components in front of me. The first thing that we have is we have the main board. There are 2 sides to this board. So there is a side for a 2 to 5 player game, and then there is the solo side as well. You have the money tracker here, which you're going to have a certain amount of money based off of the cards that you place in that year. So you will place your little token on the spot that you have that amount of money, and then you'll be able to spend that money at the market. So the market's going to be different every single year. There are going to be traps, monsters, and then additional things that you can add to your dungeon. You're going to be purchasing those things. And then at the end of that round or that year, you will have to put your money tracker back to 0. So whatever coins you do not spend in that year, you're going to lose. There's also a priority track on the main board. This is going to help if there's ever any ties, and you will get better priority based off of when you decide to stop during the market phase. So the earlier you stop, the better priority that you have. And then additionally, the earlier you stop during the market phase, you actually get first choice of the objectives that are face up. So there's going to be a certain amount of objectives face up depending on player count. You will be able to get first pick of those objectives. And then lastly, for the main board, there's going to be the goal card. So this is going to be one public objective that everyone is going to be kind of competing for. This one in particular here is have the most slimes in your dungeon. The first player gets 15, the second gets 9, and then the third gets 5. So there's going to be a bunch of different goal cards that you can choose from. These are the public goal cards, and then the challenge cards, the ones that I pointed out beside here, are the ones that you're going to be drafting after the market phase, and each player is going to have 3 different challenge cards that they're going to be getting points for. So that is everything for the main board and what everyone will be playing with at the table, but each player is going to have their own play area as well. Each player is going to get their own blueprint card. So this is, it kind of reminds me a little bit of in Role Player. If you guys have ever played Role Player, there is a backstory card. So the backstory card kind of gives you an objective of particular things needing to be in particular places. So in Role Player, there is the dice colors and dice numbers. The backstory card is actually trying to get you to fulfill different dice colors in particular places. Whereas these cards, the blueprint cards, are trying to get you to place certain things in certain spots in your dungeon. So like I mentioned, you'll be building up a grid 4x4 of cards, and this is going to have you putting particular things or having particular cards in certain spots. And the more you succeed or successfully get, you're going to get more points. So if you successfully get all 8 of the particular things, you're going to get 20 victory points. So you're going to be getting one of those. And then each player is going to get a little like starting board, and then you will have to put your entrance in a particular spot and your exit in a particular spot, and then you're going to be building up your tableau in front of you. So I believe that is pretty much everything for the components. Obviously, we have the big deck of dungeon cards. There are a ton of different cards with all different things. And then each player is going to end off with 3 challenge cards. Each player is going to also get 2 different player aids. They are both double-sided. There's final scoring, there's icons, there's play sequence, and then there's also setup reminders, which is great. So that is everything for the components. Like I mentioned, Only other thing is I will mention that there is a solo mode, which I am very excited about. I did play it, and that's all I have to say. There is a solo mode, and it's pretty easy to learn and get to the tables. So that is everything for the components. Each player does get an entrance and exit little tower here, as well as 2 discs in their color. So that is only other thing that I did not mention, but let's get into how the game plays. All right, so like I mentioned, the game is played over 4 rounds, or 4 years, as they say in the game, and each year is going to have 3 different phases. There's going to be the construction phase, there's going to be the improvement phase, and then there's also going to be a cleanup phase. So starting with the construction phase, this is going to be the closed drafting phase. It's going to be simultaneous and nice and quick, and each player will grab a certain amount of dungeon cards based off of the player count. I will, for this example, say there is 4 players. So with a 4-player game, each player is going to start with 5 cards in their hand. They are going to simply look through all of the cards, and they are going to pick 1 card to place face down in front of them. Then the remaining 4 they would give to the player to either their left or their right, based off of what round it is. It does switch round per round. And then whatever card that they do take is going to be placed into their tableau or into their dungeon. So if it is just the start of a round, the player can choose any of the 4 spots in that specific row and place it down like that, and then play would move on. The player would then pick another card and then give the remaining cards to their neighbor, and then it would go on until each player had played 4 different cards into that row for that year. And I quickly will, before we move on to the next thing, kind of just give you guys a little bit of an overview of a card. There are going to be 2 different types of cards. The expansion does introduce a 3rd type of card, but I won't get into that too much. Basically, it is just a little bit of like a wild. So basically, each of the cards is either going to be a stone dungeon or a dirt dungeon or clay dungeon. So one is going to be a gray color, the other is going to be a beige. The expansion ones act as both, but there's going to be a particular type of dungeon, and then there are going to be 4 different spaces, and there are going to be different things in those spaces. Some of those spaces might be empty, but some of those spaces might have traps. They might have slime or ooze. They might have victory points, or reputation points are victory points in this game. So it might be a star with a number in it. It might be negative victory points, and it also might be treasure chests or monsters as well. So there are a bunch of different things that can be in these 4 different parts of the card. Like I said, there can be empty spots as well, because you will have the option in the market phase or the improvement phase to add more to these cards to fulfill different objectives. So for example, this one has 2 slimes in the 2 corners, and then the other 2 corners are empty. So you would have an opportunity to add things to those spots a little bit later in the game. And then at the bottom, there is a little title of the certain part of the dungeon. It's fun to just read them. This one's called the Lost Chamber. And then there is also a coin number. So at the end of the construction round, each player is going to have 4 cards that they've drafted, and then all of those cards are going to have a coin number at the bottom. So whatever number you have, you're going to add up all 4 of those cards. You will also get 2 additional coins for any treasure chests that are on any of your cards in your dungeon. So I might decide to place this here, and then place this here. I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to see, but for example, with this here, I do have 4 cards. One has 5, one has 4, and one has 1, so that is 10 coins. Plus, I do have 1, 2, 3, 4 treasure chests, which is quite a lot. So that would be 10 plus 2, 4, 6, 8. I would have 18 coins to spend during this round. So moving into the market phase, that's how many coins that I would have to spend on things in the market. So moving into the market phase, once everyone has played their different cards into their dungeon and that row for that year is full, you would move into the market phase. Each player would count up the amount of coins that they got for their 4 cards that they played, as well as any treasure chests that they have in their dungeon. And then you would move into buying things from the market. So whoever has the most amount of coins will be the player to go first. I will additionally say the priority track will reset. So everybody will push their tokens down to the bottom. And then the player with the most coins would get the first choice of anything in the market. There are 4 different sections of the market, each of them with a different amount of coins that you have to pay. So for example, with this one here, this is a section that costs 10 coins, 8 coins, 4 coins, and 5 coins. And these things, like I mentioned in the overview, have things like traps, they have monsters, as well as slime, ooze, victory points, treasure chests, different things like that. There are also additional like stairs, which add a little tunnel to one of the cards that allow for better paths throughout your dungeon, because you are going to be scoring victory points for connecting your entrance to your exit, or just having connections from your entrance and from your exit. You don't necessarily have to connect your entrance to exit, but the more that you have connected to the entrance, the more you have connected to the exit, the more victory points you're going to get. So having that additional stair tile to add and give you more options for paths is a really good thing to have. But like I said, different objectives are going to need different traps and different monsters and different items in your dungeon. So for example, if I had the 18 coins, like I mentioned, I might say, hey, I want to buy this 10 here. So I would spend my 10 coins, I would go down to 8, and then I would gain these 3 tiles from the market, and then I would be able to place them anywhere in my dungeon, any of the empty spots in my dungeon. So I might decide to place that there, and then place this here. I will also say that you can have multiples of things in one dungeon. You can never overlap things in a dungeon though. You can only place them onto empty spots. And then that would be my turn. The next person with the next most coins would get to buy something from the market, but that player might actually say, hey, I kind of want first choice of the challenge cards. So the challenge cards are going to be cards, objective cards that are going to be face up for everyone to see. And the sooner that you opt out of buying something from the market, the sooner you're going to be able to choose from the face up objectives. So if there are, or if there is an objective that is face up that you really want yourself, you might actually decide, I'm just going to forfeit buying anything from the market, and I'm just going to get the challenge card that I want. This would also allow you to be the first in priority for the next round. Priority, again, just helps with ties and things like that. So I might decide I want this one here because this objective is gain 3 victory points or 3 reputation for each kobold, which is a type of monster, in a single column of chambers in your dungeon. So I might see that I have a lot of kobolds in one column in my dungeon. So I might say, hey, I'm going to forfeit taking anything from the market. I'm going to forfeit the coins that I made this round because at the end of this round, if I have any coins that I don't spend, they will be lost for the next round. They don't carry over to the next round. So I might just decide that it's worth it to get the objective that is going to get me a ton of points, and then I would be done for that round. The other players will continue to either buy something from the market or decide to pass and get one of the challenge cards, put their tile up on the priority track, and then once everyone is finished, everyone has one of their challenge cards and have passed on buying anything from the market. That is everything for that year. There's a little bit of cleanup, which there are just a few things. All players, like I said, if they have any coins that are unspent, they get lost. All players go back down to 0. The market cards get refreshed. There's going to be new market cards that come out, new monsters, new traps, new additional things. The one challenge card that is not taken is going to get discarded. More challenge cards are going to be put out. And then a new round is going to begin. Players will then get more cards to draft during the construction phase. They'll move into another improvement phase, another cleanup phase. That will happen 4 times. And then at the end of the game, everyone will have the 4x4 grid of cards in their dungeon, their built out finished dungeon after 4 years, and then you will go into final scoring. So much like a lot of the role player tale games, this game has a lot of different ways to gain victory points. The first one, I think there are like 6 different ways to gain victory points, but the first one is going to be your final priority. I will mention you do not get a challenge card for the final year. Every player will gain one in year 1, 2, and 3, so every player will have 3 challenge cards or 3 personal objectives that they're going to be scoring for. So in the final year's market or improvement phase, you're going to be able to purchase additional things from the market to try to get as many points as you can. But the sooner that you pass on the market phase, the better spot you are going to get on the priority track, and you will gain victory points based off of your final priority. So the person in first place will get 9 victory points, the second will get 6 victory points, and the third will get 3. So final priority helps. The second thing would be the goal card. So each player would count up specifically whatever the goal card would be. So in this example here, like I mentioned, whoever had the most slimes in their dungeon would get 15 victory points, second would get 9, and third would get 5. Additionally, each player would then count up all of their personal objectives or their challenge cards. Next would be any chamber reputation. So that's going to be any stars like victory point reputation stars on any of the cards in your tableau. You would count up those. Sometimes there are negative ones as well, so you will count up that. Each player would go over their blueprint, count how many of the things they successfully got in their dungeon, and then get victory points based off of how many that they got. And then lastly, each player would gain victory points based off of their entrance and their exit. So each player would gain 1 reputation per chamber card that is connected to their entrance, and then 1 reputation for each chamber card that is connected to their exit. So if you did end up connecting your entrance to your exit, you would actually count from your exit how many spaces are connected there, and then you would go back from your exit and count how many cards are connected from there. So like I mentioned, you don't necessarily have to connect your entrance to your exit, but the more that are connected to your entrance and more that are connected to your exit, the more victory points you're going to get with that scoring objective. So that is everything for the final scoring. Whoever had the most victory points at the end of the game would be the winner. In the case of a tie, I believe it's whoever has the higher priority would win, and that is everything for the overview of Stonespine Architects. Additionally, like I mentioned, there is the mini expansion. This is the Shrines and Fountains mini expansion. The really cool thing about this is that it adds fountains and shrines, and this gives you a little bit of mitigation when it comes to building out your dungeon. So the fountains will allow you to actually move 1 single market token. So one of the things that you purchased from the market, you would be able to move from 1 dungeon card to another or chamber card. And then also the shrine would allow you to swap 2 cards, but whatever tiles are placed on those cards would stay on those specific cards. So you would just switch them. So I think that this gives a little bit of mitigation. I found when I was playing, there was a few times where I did wish that I could like swap cards, or if I could actually change my mind and move something to another card because I needed it more in that situation. So that is the mini expansion, and I believe that is everything for the game. I do want to mention the solo variant for this game is pretty easy. All you have is the jail or JL cards, the deck of cards. You're going to be flipping 1 over for each of the years, and that is going to give the AI that you're going against certain icons that they prioritize when drafting, close drafting the cards. It's going to give the AI a certain amount of coins, so you're going to have to try to beat that number of coins in order to get to the market before them. There's going to be a certain amount or certain spots that they're going to be taking things from the market, and then they will also be taking the lowest number on the challenge card. So there's going to be a number in the bottom right-hand corner of each challenge card, and whatever one is lowest is the one that the AI is going to take. And then at the bottom, there are some scoring things that the AI will get. They will have a certain base number that they're going to get in reputation, and then they will get additional for specific things. So for this card here, you'd get 3, or they would get 3 reputation for each set of slime and ooze that they have in the cards that they draft. They will not be building out a dungeon. They will just have a little deck of cards at the end of the game, or a pile of cards at the end of the game, and also some market tiles as well. So that is everything for the solo variant. Like I mentioned, I played both multiplayer and solo. So yes, that is everything. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing this Kickstarter preview for Stonespine Architects. Huge thank you to Thunderworks Games for sponsoring today's video and working with the Board Game Garden. I appreciate it. Like I said, I will have the Kickstarter link down below if you guys want to go check this out. if it is something that you feel like you are interested in and want to get your hands on. But yeah, give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed. Also hit that subscribe button if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden, and I will see you guys in the next board game video. Bye, friends!